Hi, welcome to Module 4. This module, it's kind of a hodgepodge. Mainly we're focused on cognitive development. So again, cognitive development. Cognitive is a word that's connected to cognition. And cognition really means thinking. So really what we're talking about this week is how children develop their thinking skills, their ability to think, or develop their brain functions around understanding information. So in child development, we call that cognitive development, the development of thinking skills. Well, we're also going to focus on two theorists this module, Lev Vygotsky and Jean Piaget. These are two really influential figures in child development knowledge. Both of them are deceased, but their work continues to influence how we think about children today. So I'm going to introduce you to some of their ideas. And those of you who continue on taking education courses will definitely hear about Piaget and Vygotsky again. And if you took Intro to ECE, you already have heard about them. So that's the focus of this chapter, or this module. So right away in the required reading, Medina starts to talk about intelligence. And he breaks that concept up a little bit. So when you think of people that you know who you would say are intelligent or smart, you're categorizing that intelligence in one specific way. So we tend to think of people who are good at problem solving as being intelligent. We also tend to think of people who have a lot of knowledge as being intelligent. So there's another theorist named Howard Gardner, who really believes that there are multiple types of intelligence. So that when we kind of think of math smarts or science smarts, that's one way of being intelligent, but there's also bodily or kinesthetic intelligence. So people who are good athletes have a different kind of intelligence, but it's still a type of intelligence. So there are a lot of ways of being intelligent, and that theory is called the multiple intelligences theory. But for this module, we're really going to focus on cognition or thinking, and the type of intelligence we're looking at here is more of that kind of knowledge and problem solving that is our stereotypical idea of intelligence. So Medina breaks intelligence up into two different categories. One is he calls crystallized intelligence. And when he says crystallized intelligence, all he really means is memory. So the ability to hear new information or read new information and then to remember it. That's called crystallized intelligence. And probably you know people in your life that are better at remembering things than others. So they would have strong crystallized intelligence. So these words are on page 99 if you want to know where to find this in the reading. The next type of intelligence he talks about is fluid intelligence. And this is when you're able to take that information that you know and use it for problem solving. Okay? And you probably also know people who are good at that. Figuring out what should happen. There's this problem, how do we fix it? I was working on a problem today. There's a student is ready to graduate with her degree, but she's short a couple of academic credits. So she thought she could graduate at the end of this quarter, but she's short some academic credits. And I wanted to solve this problem for this student so bad because it is unacceptable to me that she thinks she can graduate, but she's missing some credits. And so my mind was working on it all day, and I figured out how to get her at this point in the quarter in a class that she can get those academic credits. So that would be an example of fluid intelligence. So I took what I knew, the crystallized intelligence that I have about all the different courses we have, all the different rules about signing up for courses late, all the different financial aid rules, and all the different things that make up the complication of being a student. And I had to move all those around to come up with a solution for her problem. And I figured one out, which I'm so delighted. So she's going to be able to graduate on time. It's going to cost her a little bit of money because she has to add some credits to her load. But so that's an example of fluid intelligence. I took what I knew in my crystallized intelligence and then was able to move it around until I was able to find a solution to the problem. So yeah, so that breaks down those concepts. And that's a good way to think about, like, when you're thinking about what kids know and maybe what they need to know, thinking about things, facts. So we all need to know a certain amount of facts, but then we all need practice kind of using those facts to solve problems, right? So both types of intelligence are important. Another term I wanted to clarify for you. So he, again, right away he views all of child development through the lens of evolution. So he believes that everything we do is in a effort to survive, right? So even if you're not into the idea of evolution, you can kind of sign on to the idea that we as human beings want to survive as a species, right? We as individuals will do often what's in our own best interest in order to survive. But throughout this chapter, he refers to the Serengeti, and I think that might be confusing to a lot of you. So Serengeti, Serengiti, I think. But when he's saying that, so Serengeti is the place in Africa that scientists believe we all came from originally, that was the origin of life there in the Serengeti, and then people migrated out from there. So when he first refers to the Serengeti, kind of that's his Eden, right? So his idea is that's kind of ground zero. That's where we all started, in the Serengeti. So he refers to the Serengeti a few times, and so that's what he's talking about. Okay, so the next term I wanted to sort of define for you is this idea of executive function. So again, there's the kind of smarts that we usually think of, and that's where you have knowledge and you can use that knowledge to solve problems. But there's another aspect of intelligence that researchers are just getting to know about. And people who have strong executive function skills are really successful in their life. They do better in school, they get better employment, they do better in their employment. They have kind of higher performing lives. On average, it's 10 o'clock at night when I'm recording this. So there's three things that make up executive function. One is called working memory. So again, it's this idea of being able to retain knowledge. And working memory sort of indicates that you're able to learn things as you go. Okay, that you're collecting new information all the time. So that's one executive function skill, is having a good working memory. The next is inhibitory control. And that's where when you want to do something, but you don't necessarily do it because you're able to control yourself. So your inhibitions kick in and you control yourself. So this is both in terms of, like, right now it's 10 o'clock. Wouldn't I rather be watching Grey's Anatomy on Netflix? Probably. But I have pretty good inhibitory control, and I know that I need to record this video. So I'm 10 o'clock at night, Friday night, my kids are sleeping, I'm recording this video. So I have very good inhibitory control. But there are some people, and maybe sometimes this is you guys, you should be doing something, but you do something else instead. So that would be called poor inhibitory control. This is also like when you get angry, but you're in a work environment and you kind of can inhibit yourself and not express your anger. That's another example of inhibitory control, that you don't need to just let all of your emotions out, that you can inhibit that. So you can imagine this is really, really successful people are able to regulate their emotions, are able to choose work over pleasure sometimes or most of the time. So that's part of executive function. And those are brain things. So memory, of course, you can think of that as a brain thing, but inhibitory control is as well. So 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds have terrible inhibitory control. They want something, they go and get it. They are mad, you know they're mad. They're sad, you know they're sad. So they are not trying to inhibit themselves. They are all the way themselves. And so they have really poor inhibitory control. And that's because of their brain development. The part of our brain that kind of shuts us down and says, that's your boss, don't say what you want to say right now, that part of their brain is not developed yet. Okay? So that inhibitory control, the ability to stop ourselves, to regulate our emotions, lives in the brain. And 3-year-olds don't have access to that yet. They're learning. They're getting there, though. Okay, and the third aspect of executive function is cognitive flexibility. So that's that same sort of like problem-solving thing. So an example in a preschool age child of cognitive flexibility is if they really want that toy and someone else has it, but they're able to say, oh, I can't have that toy, but here's another one. I'll use this one instead. Or I really want that long Lego. I really want that, but someone else has it. Oh, here's 2 small Legos that I can put together. That'll work the same as a long Lego. So that's example of cognitive flexibility, where they can they thought this was how they were going to solve this problem, but they can rearrange what's possible and decide to solve the problem in a different way. That takes cognitive flexibility. So that's what executive function skills are. They're kind of a it topic right now in education, because if you focus on supporting preschoolers and developing executive function skills in preschool and kindergarten, their learning will be higher later on. So in some schools, or some people have the idea that we need to focus on academics, letters and numbers, etc., and then they'll do better in school. But what researchers are finding is actually if we focus on these executive function skills, even maybe more than literacy activities, that having those skills, like being able to inhibit their behavior and be able to have a working memory so that they can retain new information, that ends up letting them do better in school than focusing on academics early. So it's an it topic right now. Okay, I'm going to try to wrap her up here. So I'm going to go in, we're going to talk about Piaget, or there's going to be an assignment discussion board, maybe, I haven't decided yet, about Piaget. So what you need to know as you're getting ready for your preschool interview is that preschool age children, ages 2 to 5, are in, well, really 2 to 7 years old, are in the pre-operational stage of cognitive development. And now most significant in this module is the quality of these children is that they can pretend. So starting at about 2 years old, 2.5, 3 years old, really 2.5, you're going to see it. Children start pretending, right? There's a block, they pretend it's a car. There's a shoe, they pretend it's a phone. My little girls right now are pretending that they're mamas and they're carrying their babies around, and they'll say, oh, mama, I'll be reading a book to them and they're like, oh, show my baby the picture. Right? So I show the picture in the book to the baby doll. They're pretending that the baby doll can see the pages in the book. Pretending's really big at this age. And so this might be obvious, but the main reason that pretending is so big at this age is because it's brand new that they can do it. Right? So I don't know if you remember the first time you really learned to drive. I do. And I just wanted to drive all the time. Right? I knew how to drive, and now I wanted to drive all the time. Or you start to really get good at riding your bike. You want to ride your bike all the time. I remember when I learned to ski in 4th grade. I wanted to ski all the time. So it's a little bit like that. They can pretend now. And pretending is believing that something is something else. So this pen can be an airplane. This pen becomes a symbol for an airplane. This isn't really an airplane, but my mind can make it an airplane. And if I do this, your mind can too, right? Can you see? Is it an airplane? Right, so you can pretend. This pen becomes a symbol for what an airplane is. And that is so satisfying to learn that things can be symbols. Another example of a symbol is a word. So when a child learns that if they say a certain word, that word is a symbol for something else, it's tremendously satisfying. So one of my daughter's first words was blah, blah, blah. And she said blah, blah, blah for banana. So when she wanted a banana, she would go blah, 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 and point to our basket of bananas. And it was so cute. And so I always gave her a banana. But her blah, 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 like, she maybe had been wanting a banana for a long time. But then, months later, she learns how to say blah, blah, blah. And now when she says blah, 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 I gave her a banana. So she learns how powerful that symbol can be. So of all, and like I said, in the assignment or discussion board, you'll learn more about Piaget's ideas about this age group. But to me, maybe the most significant is this idea of symbols. And so that's why you see preschool age children pretending all the time. They love it. It's so satisfying. It is among the most significant pieces of work that preschool age children do is they play. And most, if not all, most of their learning comes through play. That pretending is so rich in building connections in their brain and letting them practice skills that they want to learn and play through ideas that they want to understand. That happens in play, and it's really essential for their learning. Okay, and so the one last thing. So in the book, Medina talks about something called mature dramatic play. So he goes on this whole big thing about how kids learn so much from play. It's amazing. You need to let your kids play. But then he says really the only kind of play they really learn from is something called mature dramatic play. Now, I see this a little differently than Medina. I do think mature dramatic play, and I'll define that in a minute, is valuable in young children's learning. But I think he separates mature dramatic play from regular play a little too much. All children learn from whatever regular play as well. Because when they decide, hey, I want to do this and pretend this, and they're taking the initiative to entertain themselves, there's always learning that's going to happen. Okay, but this mature dramatic play, there's been a lot of research about it that shows how beneficial it is for children. So mature dramatic play is when there's rules. So two kids, so my daughters, for example, if they say, okay, I'll pretend that I'm the mommy and you're the baby, and we're going to go to the grocery store. And now, when my girls pretend that, Ivy, who's probably going to be the mommy, has to act like the mommy. So she can't now do whatever she wants. She can't jump on the couch. She can't throw things on the floor. She has to do what a mommy would do, which is none of those things, right? So she has to do what a mommy would do, which is take care of the baby. She's going to push the shopping cart. She's going to get the things they need. She's going to pay with the money. So in that place, she can't just do whatever she wants. She has to follow the rules of what a mommy would do. So, right, can you see how that asks something extra of her? And same with Ruby, if she's the baby, she has to act like a baby. She has to crawl, So it asks something extra of her. So that is mature dramatic play, is when there's those extra expectations. And the kids set those rules themselves, right? I set rules for them, but not around their play. So kids do create self-imposed rules for themselves. And it's about as challenging cognitively as anything else they do, is to imagine what roles they're going to play and then to actually follow the rules of those roles. Okay, so go ahead and dig into this content. There is not enough time in this course to go into these topics deeply enough. So if you have any questions about things we don't cover, please don't hesitate to ask me. Okay, thank you.